Today it's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York. I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. That's what these people want. They chant death to America. So we're doing something that is in the service of mankind, of humanity, and it's a battle of good against evil. America should and does stand with the good. That's what President Trump is doing, and I deeply appreciate his support.
So let's talk about the Netanyahu legacy and the truth that most people either don't know or refuse to confront. You can't scream never again while doing it all over again. To Palestinians, to Black Jews, to refugees. And no, this isn't about anti-Semitism. This is about power, hypocrisy, and history that refuses to die quietly. Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't some quiet academic. He was a far-right Zionist historian who helped shape the ideology of the Israeli right. He believed that peace with Arabs was impossible, that Jews would always be hunted, and that Israeli survival depended on permanent strength and expansion. He was part of the revisionist Zionist camp, the same one that opposed compromise, coexistence, and anything resembling a two-state solution. And that's the worldview that Benjamin inherited. Fear the outsider, never give an inch. Crush your enemy before they breathe. It's not just policy, it's family doctrine for him. Now let's address the receipts, because I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories and some half-truths thrown around, so I just want to clear that up. Benjamin Netanyahu didn't sign the Havara agreement. He wasn't involved. But here's a hard truth. In 1933, mainstream Zionist leaders, they did sign an agreement with the Nazis, the Havara Agreement, which, if you don't know, allowed German Jews to immigrate to Palestine by purchasing German goods. The Nazis got export revenue, and the Jews got a narrow path out. It's messy, it's morally uncomfortable, and revisionist Zionists like Benzion opposed it. But when you dig deeper, the contradiction is still there. The roots of the Israeli state are tangled with survival strategies that worked right alongside fascism. And now that state is using its survival as a reason to brutalize others. You don't have to be complicit in Havara to repeat the violence of an empire. Under Netanyahu, Gaza has become an open-air prison, a place where 2 million people, half of them children, lived under siege, without access to clean water, medicine, or electricity. They call it defense, but let's be honest, it's punishment. Entire families are buried in rubble. Journalists have been unalived. Aid has been blocked. And it's all done under the language of survival, as if flattening Gaza is the only way to protect Tel Aviv, as if Palestinians aren't human until the rockets stop. That's not self-defense, that's war crime with good PR. And while we're on the topic of who gets counted and who gets erased, let's talk about Ethiopian Jews, brought to Israel through rescue operations in the 80s and 90s, and then forced birth control injections, blood donations thrown out as tainted, police brutality and protest met with silence, their children shoved into underfunded schools and poverty cycles. So tell me again how Israel's a safe haven for Jews, because clearly only certain Jews qualify. Netanyahu cries about history while repeating it. He inherited a legacy built on fear, built a state on control, and is now overseeing ethnic cleansing in Gaza and anti-blackness in Israel. Two things can be true at once. Jews have suffered unspeakable violence, and that history is being used to justify new violence, funded by the same Western empires that watched the old one happen. If your freedom depends on someone else's extinction, it's not liberation, it's colonialism with better branding. Be better.
By the way, Benjamin Netanyahu's not his real name. Did you know that?
I was going to tell you that. You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
It's like Minkowski or something?
Yeah, it's like a Polish-sounding last name, and the reason why he changed it is because he doesn't want people to know he's really from Europe, and he's not actually from there.
Israel's strikes on Iran's nuclear and military sites are a really big deal. Here are 3 reasons why. First, Israel has been threatening to do this for a long time, saying Iran's nuclear program poses an existential threat to it. Now they've actually done it. The strikes hit locations across Iran, including in the capital Tehran and Natanz, which is Iran's main uranium enrichment site. Several senior military commanders and top nuclear scientists were also killed. For years, Israel has been trying to persuade other countries that taking out Iran's nuclear capability is the right approach. This was Netanyahu talking about it at the UN back in 2012. But the US, Europe, and others have preferred to go down the negotiations route. We saw that with the Iran nuclear deal, signed during Obama's presidency. Trump withdrew the U.S. from that deal in his first term, But earlier this year, he started new talks with Iran as a way to avoid military action. And just a few days ago, he said this.
Look, I want to have an agreement with Iran. As long as I think there is an agreement, I don't want them going in because I think I would blow it. Might help it, actually, but it also could blow it.
Which gets us to the second reason why this is such a big deal. There are questions about how much the U.S., Israel's biggest ally, was or wasn't involved in the decision to go ahead with the strikes. The U.S.'s Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Israel took unilateral action, i.e. it acted alone, and that the U.S. is not involved in Israel's strikes against Iran. So it looks like the U.S. could be trying to distance itself a bit from Israel on this. And keep in mind that the 6th round of U.S.-Iran nuclear talks was scheduled for Sunday. Trump says Israel did tell the U.S. beforehand that it was going to do this. And in the last few days, some U.S. embassy staff were being evacuated from the region. But still, exactly how the discussions between Israel and the U.S. went down in the lead-up to Israel strikes isn't very clear, nor is Trump's position towards Iran right now. In this post, reacting to Israel strikes, Trump says he told Iran to make a deal, but they just couldn't get it done. In the same post, he also called for more diplomacy, saying Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left. Now, the third reason why this move by Israel is such a big deal is because of what Iran's potential response could be. Right away, Iran launched about 100 drones towards Israel, though many were intercepted. And Iran's supreme leader has warned Israel to expect severe punishment. A big question is whether U.S. military bases in the region could also be targeted. And there are a lot of them, including in Gulf countries like Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE. On Wednesday, Iran's defense minister said, if a conflict is imposed on us, all U.S. bases are within our reach, and we will boldly target them in host countries. That scenario would mean direct conflict between Iran and the U.S. on another country's territory. So we'd be looking at all sorts of serious ripple effects across the region.
The Islamic Republic of Iran condemns in the strongest terms the United States' brutal military aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities. It is an outrageous, grave, and unprecedented violation of the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law. The warmongering and lawless administration in Washington is solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences.
יש אנשים שלצערנו גם נהרגו, משפחות ששכלו יקירים. אני מאוד מעריך את זה. כל אחד מאיתנו נושא מחיר אישי, זה לא פסח על המשפחה שלי. כן, פעם שנייה שבני אבנר, בגלל איום טילים וירי טילים, מבטל חתונה, זה בוודאי מחיר אישי יקר לו, וגם לארוסתו ולמשפחתנו. וגם אני חייב להגיד, רעייתי היקרה היא גיבורה. היא נושאת מחיר אישי במשך שנים. כשאני מוביל את המהלך הזה נגד הגרעין האיראני, היא הקריבה את מיטב שנותיה, ונתנה לי את כל הכוח להיות פה, כי בלעדיה לא הייתי כאן, וכך גם שני בניי.